Outside, the wind howled as Emily tidied the inside of Rosie Steiner. It was one of those slow evenings when time seemed to drag endlessly and tips were hard to come by. She sighed, glancing at the clock, only 1 hour until closing. Just as she reached for the coffee pot, a creak sounded from the opening door. A man stepped in, his uniform tattered, his boots crusted with mud. His weary eyes carried stories of countless battles fought long ago. Emily had dealt with many struggling customers, but something about this man made her pause and take notice. He hesitated at the entrance, as if reconsidering whether to come in or not. After a deep breath, he shuffled to a booth and sank into the seat. Emily approached him, menu in hand. "Good evening, sir," she said warmly. "What can I bring you?" He looked up, his weathered face softening at her kind tone. "Just a cup of coffee, please," he replied, his voice rough, like someone who hadn't spoken much lately. Noticing his fingers trembling slightly as they gripped the table's edge, she smiled gently. "A single cup of coffee won't be enough," she thought. "How about a meal on the house?" His eyes flickered with emotion, perhaps gratitude, or maybe pride held him back. "I can't accept that," he began hesitantly. She interrupted gently. "You've served our country. Let me serve you." The man's resolve weakened as he exhaled, giving her a slow nod of acknowledgement. "Thank you." A few minutes later, she placed a steaming plate before him, eggs, bacon, and a generous stack of pancakes. He stared at it for several moments before finally picking up his fork. As he took the first bite, the effect was profound. His eyes closed, as if savoring every flavor, deeply moved. While he enjoyed the warmth of a proper meal, Emily watched discreetly. There was something special about him. He wasn't just any struggling veteran. A quiet strength marked the way he carried himself, even in his exhaustion. She was curious about his story, but sensed he wasn't ready to share. When he finished eating, he reached into his pocket, pulling out a few crumpled bills. "I can at least pay for the coffee," he offered. Emily shook her head, gently pushing the money back, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Consider it a thank you for your service." He stared at her, an unspoken understanding passing between them. With a slight, almost hesitant nod, he tucked the money back into his pocket. "People don't usually do such things," he murmured. "They should," she replied softly. He rose from his seat, straightened his jacket, and said, "You're a kind soul, miss, more than you know." With that, he turned and walked to the door, which swung open, letting in another gust of wind that sent shivers through the diner. He paused briefly before stepping into the night's embrace. Disappearing from view, Emily lingered by the empty booth, unable to shake a lingering feeling from this encounter. She had no idea how her small gesture of kindness would trigger an unimaginable chain of events by morning. The next day, as Emily arrived at Rosie Steiner, the sun just peeking over the horizon, she expected a typical day, familiar regulars, a few passing truckers, and the occasional new face. As she pulled into the parking lot, she slammed on the brakes, her heart pounding. Right in front of the diner stood a convoy of military vehicles stretching down the street. In the center, 2 massive tanks were parked directly at the entrance. A few customers had gathered nearby, holding up their phones to capture this surreal scene. Emily's pulse raced as she slowly stepped out of her car, her breath visible in the cool morning air. Soldiers in uniform stood around, some speaking into radios, others scanning the area as if securing a perimeter. What was happening here? She wove through the small crowd, apron in hand. Before she could ask further, a soldier approached. His uniform was impeccable, his boots gleaming, but his expression gave nothing away. "Are you Emily Carter?" he asked, his voice firm but not unfriendly. Emily swallowed hard and replied, "Yes, that's me." The soldier nodded and stepped aside, revealing the man from last night, the quiet veteran she'd fed, now standing before her again. But now he was different. His tattered clothes had been replaced by a clean, decorated uniform, medals gleaming on his chest. Behind him stood a group of senior military officers. Emily's thoughts raced as she realized the man she'd thought was just another struggling veteran was clearly someone important. He stepped forward, his gaze steady. "Good morning, Miss Carter," he said, his voice carrying quiet authority. "I believe we owe you a thank you." Emily blinked, surprised. "A thank you?" He nodded, offering a small smile. "You didn't know who I was last night, did you?" She shook her head, still too stunned to speak. "My name is General James Holloway," he announced, prompting a gasp from the crowd. He was the commander of the United States Army Special Operations Division. Emily felt the ground vanish beneath her feet. A general, the man she'd fed, Hood, seemed so downcast, turned out to be one of the military's highest-ranking officers. In a gentler tone, General Holloway continued, "I've been on an unclassified mission for some time. Returning home, I found myself in a land that felt foreign. No one paid me any mind, or even looked at me." He paused, his eyes locking onto hers. Emily's throat tightened as she recognized a man in need of kindness. He went on, saying she hadn't acted for the sake of uniform or rank, but because it was simply the right thing. His words weighed heavily on her, though she still struggled to grasp all that was happening. "I didn't do it to expect anything in return," she admitted. "And that's exactly why you deserve this," he replied, nodding slightly to a soldier. Within seconds, a briefcase appeared and was opened before them. Inside were stacks of crisp bills. Emily gasped at the sight of $50,000. General Holloway announced it as a personal gift from him. And that wasn't all. Her hand trembled as she stared at the money in disbelief. Before she could respond, the general turned to address the crowd. "Today, we're not just here to thank you," he declared. "We're here to honor you." Around her, soldiers snapped to attention, their boots hitting the pavement in unison as a military band began playing in the distance. The whole scene felt surreal. Emily's hands flew to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. This wasn't just gratitude. It was a moment she'd never forget, a mere beginning. She stood frozen, her breath shallow, trying to comprehend what was unfolding around her. The crowd had grown, people whispering and taking photos, watching in awe as the military presence turned her humble diner into the main attraction. Though $500 lay in the briefcase like something from fiction, it wasn't about the money. It was about being overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of this experience. General Holloway stepped forward, his gaze warm but firm. "You reminded me kindness still exists," he said. "And for that, I intend to return the favor." Before Emily could reply, a senior officer handed the general a folder. He opened it, pulling out an embossed certificate bearing the official seal of the United States Army. He held it up for all to see and declared, "This is an honorary certificate, personally signed by senior military officials. We award this to individuals who go above and beyond in service to the nation, even without wearing a uniform. Emily Carter, you showed last night that you serve in your own unique way." Her lips parted in shock as the crowd erupted in applause. A lump formed in her throat as the general extended the certificate toward her. With trembling hands, she accepted it, feeling the weight of recognition settle deep in her chest. She'd never acted for attention or expected such an honor. I don't know what to say," she whispered. General Holloway gave a knowing smile. "You don't need to see, your actions have spoken loudly enough." At that moment, another soldier stepped forward, handing the general an envelope. He turned back to Emily and said, "One more thing," as he passed it to her. As she carefully opened it, she gasped. Military grant worth $100,000 lay inside. "This is for you, General Holloway explained, "so you can keep helping people. Just as you helped me." Emily's knees nearly buckled under the weight of what had just happened. She shook her head in disbelief at such generosity, but said firmly, "No." Holloway declared resolutely that this was just the beginning. He turned to the crowd and continued, "We don't forget those who serve quietly and give without seeking recognition." Emily Carter embodies how a single kind act can change everything. As the military band played again, more soldiers gathered. Some saluted her, while others extended their hands to shake. Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks as she clung tightly to the envelope and certificate, overwhelmed by how drastically her life had changed in hours. Reporters began arriving, cameras flashing to capture these meaningful moments as a news anchor approached her, microphone in hand. "Emily, how does it feel to know your simple gesture of kindness led to all this?" Someone asked. She wiped her eyes, taking a shaky breath before answering. "I never expected anything in return," she admitted softly. "I just saw someone who needed kindness, that's all. I hope this reminds people that sometimes the smallest gestures make the biggest difference." The general nodded in agreement and said, "That's exactly why you deserve this." At that moment, another military officer approached. Holloway leaned in, whispering something to him. He nodded before turning back to Emily. "There's one last thing," he said, "something I need to show you." Emily's pulse quickened. "What is it?" she asked. His expression was unreadable as he replied, "Come with me." The crowd parted as he led her to a military truck. The soldier on duty saluted them and swung open the heavy door. As soon as Emily laid eyes on what was inside, her breath caught. She realized this was even more significant than she'd expected. Her heart raced as she stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment. The entire crowd seemed to hold its breath as General Holloway signaled the soldier to step aside. With a decisive nod, a soldier opened the rear doors of the military transport truck. Inside were crates upon crates of supplies, neatly arranged. In rows, non-perishable food, water bottles, blankets, and clothing, all marked with military insignia. Emily's eyes scanned them quickly, confusion flickering across her face as she asked in a trembling voice, What is all this?" General Holloway stood beside her, his gaze steady. "This," he said, "is for your diner, for your town, for everyone who comes through your doors needing help." Emily's breath hitched. "We've seen too many people struggle," Holloway continued. "Veterans, families, the elderly too, often left behind. That night, you didn't just give a homeless man a meal, you gave hope. And we're here to ensure that hope spreads further." Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she looked at the supplies, realizing this was more than a gift, was truly a lifeline. Her small diner, a small-town restaurant barely staying afloat, was now to become a refuge for the needy. The crowd erupted in cheers, but before she could fully grasp what was happening, Holloway spoke again. "And one more thing," he said. Emily turned to him, still overwhelmed by everything unfolding around her. "There's more?" she asked in disbelief. He smiled warmly and nodded. "Yes, because kindness like yours deserves far more than just thanks." He gestured to another soldier who stepped forward with keys in hand. Emily's brows knitted together as the soldier extended them toward her. "What are these for?" she asked hesitantly. The general nodded toward the street and said, "Why don't you take a look?" Emily turned, her breath catching in her throat as she saw a brand new van parked just down the street under the morning sun. Its side was painted with bold letters reading Emily's Hope, serving servers alongside an emblem of the American flag. She stumbled back, barely able to stand. No, this can't be real," she whispered softly. "It's very real," he assured her, warmth in his voice. Holloway expressed his wish that she expand her reach. We want you to have the ability to serve even more people. This van will let you offer meals not just here, but at veteran shelters, disaster zones, and struggling communities wherever help is needed. Overwhelmed by emotion, Emily broke down, sobs shaking her shoulders as she covered her face. Never in her wildest dreams had she imagined this. Gently, Holloway placed a hand on Emily's shoulder and continued, "You showed the world what a kind act can do. Now let them see how far that kindness can reach." The crowd surged forward, chanting Emily's name, while reporters scrambled, eager to capture every moment for nationwide broadcast. Emily Carter, a small-town waitress and now a symbol of compassion, wiped her tears away, taking a deep breath as she clutched the keys in her hand. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. Holloway shook his head, kindness in his eyes. "You already have," he replied. "Now go and make a difference." As the sun rose higher in the sky, Emily realized not only had her life changed forever, but she was ready to change the lives of others. For kindness wasn't just an isolated act, it was part of something much bigger, a movement.